The guards moved before I even understood what I had done. 1 second I was standing in a hall filled with silver light, holding a cup I had just shared with a woman I barely knew. The next second, every armed figure in the room turned toward me, their long weapons lowering in perfect unison. My heart slammed against my ribs. I had spent 3 years working as a human liaison on this outpost, and in all that time, I had never once seen the Vaelthir guards move like that. Not during trade disputes, not during the riots on the lower deck, not even when a supply ship crashed into the station's outer ring. I lifted my hands slowly, the way we are trained to do when things go wrong off-world. I didn't mean any harm, I said. My voice came out steady, though my knees did not feel steady at all. If I broke a rule, tell me. I will fix it. Nobody answered. The woman across from me, a Vaelthir noble named Kaelin Dravith, stood frozen with the cup still raised halfway to her lips. Her eyes, a deep violet that seemed to glow faintly in low light, were wide with something I couldn't place. Shock, maybe, or wonder. She looked less like someone who had been threatened and more like someone who had just been handed a gift she did not expect. Then the doors at the far end of the hall opened, and the temperature of the room seemed to drop by 10 degrees. Queen Morvessa entered. I had seen her twice before, from a distance, during formal ceremonies where humans were allowed to stand at the back and say nothing. She was tall, pale in the way that made her look carved from marble, and she moved like she had never once needed to hurry in her long life. Every Vaelthir in the room bowed low. I did not know if I was supposed to bow too, so I did, just to be safe. "Rise," she said. Her voice was quiet, but it carried through the hall like a bell. I rose. My hands were still slightly raised, out of habit. The queen walked toward me slowly, studying my face the way someone studies a puzzle they did not expect to solve today. She stopped an arm's length away, close enough that I could see faint markings along her collarbone, patterns that shimmered like frost. "Do you know what you have done, human?" she asked. "No, Your Majesty," I admitted. I shared a drink. I thought it was polite. I saw others doing something similar at the last gathering, and I didn't want to seem rude. A murmur passed through the crowd. Kaelin, still holding the cup, lowered her eyes, and for the first time since I had met her, she looked almost shy. The queen's lips curved, not quite a smile, but close to one. "You have performed the rite of the offered vein," she said. "Do you understand what that means?" I shook my head. "I'm sorry, I don't." "It means," the queen said, "that you have declared, before witnesses, your intention to marry my daughter." For a moment, I thought I had misheard her. The hall seemed to tilt slightly under my feet. I looked at Kaelin, and Kaelin looked back at me, and neither of us said anything, because there was nothing simple enough to say. "Your Majesty," I finally managed, "I think there has been a mistake." "I didn't know. I would never have." "Intention does not matter among our people," the queen said, cutting me off gently but firmly. "Only the act matters. The vein was offered. The drink was shared. Witnesses saw it happen. By our law, this cannot be undone." I felt sweat forming at the back of my neck despite the cold air. Somewhere behind me, I heard soft laughter, quickly hidden, from one of the younger nobles. This was clearly the most interesting thing to happen at court in a long time, and I was the unlucky center of it. "Is there truly no way to reverse this?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm and respectful. I meant no disrespect to your daughter, or to your customs. I simply did not know the meaning behind the gesture. The queen studied me a moment longer. Then she turned to Kaelin. "Daughter," she said, "do you object to this joining?" Every eye in the room turned to the young noblewoman. Kaelin straightened her back, lifted her chin, and to my complete surprise, she did not look afraid or embarrassed. She looked thoughtful, almost calculating, the way someone looks when they are quietly deciding whether an unexpected turn of events might actually work in their favor. "I do not object, Mother," she said. The room went silent again, but this silence felt different from before. It was not the silence of shock. It was the silence of an entire court recalculating what my presence in this hall now meant. The queen turned back to me. "Then it is settled," she said. "You are now betrothed to my daughter, human. What is your name?" "Ethan," I said. "Ethan Marsh." "Ethan Marsh?" she repeated, testing the shape of it on her tongue. "You will remain on this station. Preparations must begin. And you will learn our customs properly this time, so that you do not accidentally start a war the next time you share a drink." There was more laughter now, open laughter, and somehow that felt like a small mercy. At least they found this funny rather than offensive. I was escorted out of the hall soon after, my mind spinning faster than the station's outer ring. By the time I reached my quarters, a message from my superiors on Earth was already waiting for me, flagged urgent, which meant someone on the station had reported the incident before I even had a chance to explain it myself. The message was short. It said only this: explain immediately, and do not do anything else without approval. I sat down at my desk and stared at the wall for a long time before I even tried to write a reply. Word of what happened spread through the station faster than I could have imagined. By the next morning, humans and Veilthier alike were watching me with a mixture of amusement, curiosity, and something close to respect, which confused me even more than the whole situation already had. I had expected people to think I was foolish. Instead, several Veilthier workers nodded to me in the hallway with something like approval. I found out why during a quiet conversation with an older Veilthier engineer named Torvain, who had worked alongside humans for years and understood our confusion better than most of his people did. You do not understand why they respect you, he said, watching me carefully. It is because you did not run. I didn't know there was anything to run from, I said. That is exactly why, he said. Most outsiders, when faced with our customs, either mock them or fear them. You did neither. You simply accepted what happened and tried to do the right thing anyway. Among my people, that is rare. Even among our own kind. I wasn't sure that made me feel better, but it did help me understand why the court's reaction had shifted so quickly from shock to something almost like celebration. Later that day, I was summoned to meet with Kaylin privately, in a quiet garden near the upper levels of the station, filled with pale, glowing plants that Veilthier apparently found soothing. She was waiting for me near a small fountain, her hands folded in front of her, looking far less like a noblewoman caught in a political storm, and far more like someone simply curious about the strange human standing in front of her. You must think I am furious with you, she said. The thought had crossed my mind, I admitted. She almost smiled. I am not. If anything, I am relieved. That surprised me. Relieved. My mother has been trying to arrange a marriage for me for many years, she said. Every suitor she brought forward wanted the throne, not me. They flattered her. They flattered our traditions, and they ignored who I actually was. You did not flatter anyone. You made a mistake, and then you stood there and admitted it honestly, in front of the entire court. That alone is more honesty than I have seen from any of them. I didn't know what to say to that, so I simply told her the truth. I still don't fully understand your customs. I don't want to make another mistake that hurts you or embarrasses your family. Then let me teach you properly, she said. Not because the law demands it, because I want to. Over the following weeks, she did exactly that. She showed me which gestures meant simple friendship and which carried far heavier meaning. She explained why sharing food after sunset was different from sharing it before. She taught me the proper way to greet an elder, the proper way to decline an invitation without causing offense, and the many small rules that governed a society built around trust, blood, and long memory. I made mistakes along the way, of course. I once offered my seat to an elderly noblewoman, not realizing that among her family line, that gesture meant something closer to a challenge than a courtesy. She laughed so hard that tea nearly came out of her nose, then patted my arm and told me not to worry, since everyone in the room already knew humans were still learning. Not everyone found my presence amusing, though. Lord Draven Kessel, a Veilthier noble who had hoped to marry Kaylin himself for political reasons, made his disapproval known at every opportunity. He was polished, confident, and clearly furious that an outsider had stumbled into a position he had spent years trying to secure through careful maneuvering. You do not belong here, he told me one evening, cornering me in a quiet hallway after a formal dinner. You do not understand our history. You do not understand our strength. You are a mistake wearing the shape of a fiancé. Maybe, I said, but I'm the mistake she chose to keep. His eyes narrowed. There is a way to settle disputes like this among my people. A trial. Perhaps you should consider whether you are prepared for one. I didn't know exactly what he meant, but I could tell from his tone that it wasn't a friendly suggestion. I brought this conversation to Kaylin that night, and her expression grew serious in a way I hadn't seen before. He means the trial of vows, she said. It is an old custom, rarely used now, but still legal. Any noble may challenge a betrothal if they believe it was made falsely or dishonestly. If Draven calls for it, you will have to stand before the court and prove your intentions are true. How do I prove something like that? By answering questions no dishonest person could answer well, she said. The trial reads intention, not knowledge of our customs. It does not care whether you know our traditions. It cares whether your heart is honest. That at least was something I understood. The trial was called 3 days later. The court gathered in the same hall where everything had begun, filled once again with silver light and rows of watching eyes. Draven stood across from me, calm and confident, clearly certain that a human could not possibly pass a test built around instinct and truth. The Queen presided over the proceedings herself, seated on her tall throne, with Kaelin standing quietly to one side. "Ethan Marsh," the Queen said, "you stand accused of entering this betrothal through ignorance rather than sincerity. Do you accept the trial?" "I do," I said. Draven stepped forward first, his voice smooth and practiced. "Ask him why he stays," he said to the Queen. "Ask him if it is truly for her, or for the standing it brings him among our people." The Queen turned to me. "Answer honestly. Why do you remain in this betrothal?" I looked at Kaelin before I answered, and for once, my nerves settled instead of rising. "I remain," I said, "because she was the first person on this station who ever explained things to me, instead of judging me for not knowing them. I remain because she looked at my mistake and saw curiosity instead of stupidity. I have no interest in thrones or titles. I only know that when I'm near her, I don't feel like an outsider anymore. I feel like someone worth teaching." The hall was silent. Even Draven seemed momentarily unsure of himself. The Queen studied me for a long moment, then turned to her daughter. "Does his answer satisfy you?" Kaelin's eyes were bright, though she kept her composure with practiced grace. "It does, Mother." Draven tried once more. "Ask him if he understands the responsibility of joining royal blood, or if he simply enjoys the attention it brings." The Queen repeated the question, and I answered without hesitation. "I don't fully understand everything yet," I said. "I've only been learning your customs for a short time, but I've learned enough to know that responsibility here means protecting people, remembering history, and keeping promises even when they're inconvenient. I intend to keep this one." Silence again, heavier this time, and somehow warmer. The Queen rose slowly from her throne. "The trial is complete," she announced. "His answers carry no deception. The betrothal stands, confirmed not only by custom, but by truth spoken freely before this court." Draven's jaw tightened, but he said nothing further. He bowed stiffly and stepped back into the crowd, defeated by something far harder to argue against than tradition: honesty. Kaelin crossed the hall and stood beside me, her hand resting lightly on my arm, a gesture I now understood carried its own quiet meaning among her people. Trust, freely given. The Queen looked at the two of us with something close to approval, maybe even warmth, though her expression remained composed as always. "Humans do not know our customs," she said, loud enough for the whole court to hear. "And yet, time and again, you seem to stumble into the right ones anyway." Laughter rippled through the hall again, but this time I laughed along with them, because for the first time since that first strange night, I finally understood what she meant. I had come to this station as a liaison, sent to bridge small gaps in trade and language. Instead, I had stumbled into something far larger, a bond neither planned nor expected, built from a simple, honest mistake, and the strange, quiet courage it takes to admit when you do not know something. Standing there, beside a woman who had once been a stranger and was now something far more important, I realized that maybe understanding a culture was never really about memorizing its rules. Sometimes, it was simply about being honest enough to earn its trust.